It's the Daily Doug.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today. I have a lovely episode, I believe, coming up for you today. It's going to be music from the band Strawbs, and they're coming to the Daily Doug for the very first time. And it's a very long time coming, and from what I have heard of this band, I very much enjoy their music, and I'm happy to share some of it with you today. So this recommendation comes to us from Ray. Thank you, Ray. I have reacted to music from the Strawbs previously, but not on our YouTube channel, over on our Patreon. In our fan favorite series, we listened to Hero and the Heroine, and we've listened to a few other tracks of theirs during our Council of Doug's Zoom hangouts, and I also have a few of their albums. And from what I've heard so far, they're really fantastic musicians, and a group that I know less about than I should, so let's dive in, y'all. We're going to be listening to 3 songs from Strawbs today. The last 3 songs from their album Ghosts, their 8th album, which was released back in 1975. The songs are Remembering, You and I, and Grace Darling. The Strawbs were founded back in 1964 in England as the Strawberry Hill Boys. They were a bluegrass group originally, but they moved to music in the folk rock style and the prog rock style soon after they were formed. Let's get to it, y'all. This is going to be great. Like I said, we've got 3 songs. They're relatively short, but they all move from one to the other, I believe. We've got Dave Cousins on lead vocals and guitars and the recorder. Dave Lambert is on vocals and guitars. John Hawken is on keyboards and synths and organs. Chas Cronk is on the bass, and Rod Coombs is on the drums and percussion. We're going to start off with the short song called Remembering. It is an instrumental, and it's about a minute long, and then we'll go right into the other songs. Like I said, we're doing Remembering, You and I, and then Grace Darling. So let's strap in, folks. This is going to be fun. The Strawbs starting off with Remembering. Off we go. A little wind. A little percussion. That's in A minor. It's a fifth of the key. Relative major. It's 5. Relative minor. 4, 5. Back to relative minor. Lovely. They're in C or A minor, depending on how you work it. Now I think we're into You and I. Just right up the scale. And I love a Fender Rhodes sound.
I sometimes sit and think about our evenings in the firelight, you and I, when we were young.
When we were young.
Laughing at the crazy pattern shadows that were dancing on the wall.
I love this.
Without a care, with time to spend, hardly speaking,
Just
for
right down the
hours
scale.
on end. That was you and I when we were young.
That's the 5. So simple.
Walking hand in hand beside the river at the weekends, you and I, when we were young. Children with their fishing nets were laughing as they took their catches home.
So evocative. The lyrics are just beautiful, y'all.
Caterpillars in paper bags, knees tied up
paper bags, knees tied up with dirty rags. I could fill in my own poetry from my own childhood. This works so well. 1 major 7, 4 major 7. 5 of 6, 6, A minor.
Together in the autumn, you and I.
This sounds so
when we were young, planning for the future without knowing.
Planning for the future without knowing what it held for us. That is a universal experience of childhood, right?
The road to nowhere never climbs. We changed direction.
So they went to A major. They'd been in C major and A minor, but they moved to A major for this last part of the song. That's the 5. Back to A, right? They go back to where it was originally. So they change it back to A minor. This is from Remembering Then Again. That's the 5th of the key. F over A. Beautiful. Just beautiful. And really tasteful percussion in the background there. Out on the 5 of 6, or the 5 of that minor key. This is into Gray Star, and then we got a choir. Suspended. Move to E. This song finishes out the original version of the album. I think a later version of the album had an extra track after this. But this is the original version. And it's called Grace Darling.
You have been my lighthouse in every storm. You have given shelter. You have kept me safe and shone your brightest lights. You are my saving grace. Darling, I love you.
What a beautiful love song. This is right up my alley.
You have been the pilot who guides me home. You have been my rockers.
Kind of reminds me of Cat Stevens. You know, some other like 70s singer-songwriter stuff. Listen to it.
And when I was becalmed, you were the strength in my arms. You are my saving grace. Darling, I love ya. When I found my back was torn and broken on the reef.
When I found my back was torn and broken on the reef, you sailed across in your tiny boat, across the dark seas of my disbelief.
We have been the anchor, and I the chain, straining as we hold ourselves together in the rain.
Extend the dominant.
I have found you ever there, my constant keeper's daughter fair. You are my saving grace, darling, I love ya. Darling,
Ascending
I
line.
love ya.
All the way up, all the way through the entire octave, all the way up to that high E. A lovely bright key. You are my saving grace, darling, I love you. And that's how the album ends. Boy, that makes me happy. Those sounds just fill my soul with happiness. I don't know any other way to describe it, y'all. I hope it was that way for you. I do a lot of songs here that have rough edges, that have harsh tones, that sometimes can challenge us lyrically. This one was just celebrating the human condition and love and everything around it. And I'm here for it, y'all. That's gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. Let's talk about this last song. I didn't realize this actually until I was reading in today. Grace Darling, not only is it a really lovely love song, it's a metaphor comparing his love to the historic Grace Darling, who was a 19th century lighthouse keeper's daughter in northeast England. And famously, she worked with her father to rescue survivors of a ship called the Forfarshire. Not sure. Which had run aground on a small rocky island near their lighthouse. And for her and her father's bravery and heroism, they were given the Silver Medal of Bravery from the Royal Navy. And so when he starts talking about, and when I found my back was torn and broken on the reef, you sailed your tiny boat across the dark seas of my disbelief. And he's saying, you're my saving grace, darling, I love you. Grace Darling is calling back to this real person that lived in the 1800s and did help rescue people that were in need of rescuing after their boat ran into trouble. How beautiful is that, right? Just a lovely, lovely bit of writing. To finish up here, I found a quote in a Rolling Stone review from 1974 about this band, and that's right before they come out with this album. And they'd been around for a while at the time, and the reviewer wrote that the band, Strawbs, had moved from folkier days to a lush, stately, and Mellotron-dominated sound with similarities to Yes and King Crimson and the Moody Blues. That is some vaunted company that the reviewer is comparing them to. And then the reviewer says this, and that they wrote just as compelling songs as the former two, meaning Yes and King Crimson, and possessed just as much lyrical and musical substance as the latter, meaning the Moody Blues. That is high praise, friends. And based on what I have heard so far, I cannot disagree with that. It's really beautiful music. And what the reviewer in Rolling Stone says reveals something to me that I believe is kind of an ongoing and interesting truth about music and popular music around the world. It's that, as good as our bands are, the big popular bands that run and sort of are affiliated with these genres that we look to, whether it be metal or prog metal or jazz fusion, the biggies, as good as they are, there are many that were just as talented and churned out music, just underneath the surface of the higher charting bands, that is worthy and is gorgeous and beautiful. And we would do well to remember their output and artistry too. And I put this band in that category, similarly to the way that I put Camel in that category. Similar era that I've listened to some of their stuff that's just beautiful and less well known than some of the big names that I was referring to here in the Rolling Stone review. And it just goes to show you, y'all, you never know when your music is going to strike a chord, when it's going to like kind of burst you through a bubble and get you well known. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it happens to great bands who continue to put out beautiful and wonderful music for decades, and they are rightly at the top of the heap. But you've got music like this that's there for us to discover and to be moved by. And boy, I was moved by these 3 songs that finish up this album. It's Remembering, You and I, and Grace Darling from the Strawbs, and it's from their 8th album, Ghosts, which was released in 1975, early part of 1975. They recorded it in the fall of 1974, and I just loved every bit of it. The Remembering was this lovely little short instrumental that really ties into You and I, because they come back to it at the end, back to that sound as a little kind of returning section. And it's A minor and then A major and then back to A minor before they then move on and go bright with that last tune, Grace Darling in E major. Just a lovely musical and lyrical way to finish out an album. I can't say enough good things about it. I want to get back to more from this band, but that is all for today's episode, my friends. I thank you for tuning in and for listening to some music by Strawbs with me today. Thanks to Ray for suggesting this music and keeping me on this band. It's well worth my time and well worth all of our time. And so I thank you for being with me, and we will see you next time, y'all, on another edition of The Daily Doug.